Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the latest episode of Into the Badlands, Blackheart White Mountain. And I really like this episode because it kind of delved more into the abbots and everything, and kind of more into what Sunny's trying to deal with and trying to get back home. And we get a little bit more kind of leeway on like the whole Azra kind of thing, and at first I thought it was because Sunny would have some connection with the abbots or whatnot, since they introduced like getting rid of the gift or whatnot. But since nobody seems to recognize him from that, I think he's more connected on the Azra side of people trying to find it with the compass than anything else. And I want to know how the abbots kind of connected in that. We kind of have some inklings of what's going on there, but we don't know exactly what's going on. I hope that we get some movement with that kind of later on, like towards the end of the season, maybe next couple seasons, because that's a kind of big plot point that we're going to be probably getting into once they get reunited with Vale and Henry, since they're going to need someplace safer than the Badlands. So what would that be? Azra, this golden kind of city or whatnot. So the big focus of this episode was on Sunny and him kind of dealing with the Hand of the Five Poisons technique that was used on him, and him kind of in his own headspace. We see MK kind of looking at what's going on, and Baji's kind of like, well, what happened to him? Oh, it's like wound on his chest. That's the Hand of the Five Poisons that the monks use. It's like their deadliest technique. What the heck are they teaching you at the monastery nowadays? And I really like that kind of nod, of the five poisons, kind of like the five deadly venoms, a kind of older school kind of kung fu movie. I just kind of liked how that was kind of thrown in there. And kind of seeing Baji kind of like pull up his kind of like past with the abbots was like, okay. And then he's like, every like point has like a specific thing that it's targeting, like his heart, his liver, his lungs, his kidneys, his brain, all that kind of stuff. It goes in a sequential order to pretty much try and kill the person. And they're like, well, there's nothing we can do, kid. He's like, listen, I'm not going to let Sunny die. He's the closest thing that I got to family right now. And I'm just not going to let that fly. And he's able to convince Baji to take him there and try and get something to help get Sunny better and everything. And it's like, I don't know. We'll have to look through the scrolls. And then they kind of like start conversing about all the kind of stuff that's been going on at the monastery, with MK coming clean about like how he went into the Chamber of Mirrors and everything, found out that he killed his mother, and that he had seen the kind of things that they did to people and removing the gift and everything. And then that had Baji kind of like bringing up his own past, how the reason he left the monastery was he didn't like what was going on, and there's one focal point which he had a novice nicknamed Flea, 12-year-old little girl, could kick his ass and everything, and him and this other, I think, monk named Cyan was tracking a Dark One, and they found him trussed up in this like group of slavers. And then Flea walks in and tells them to let everybody go, and they laugh at her, and she cuts herself, eyes go black, and she kills everyone. And of course, the hard part was going back to the monastery, because he knows what they do to people like that. And they probably took away her gift. And we learned that Baji used the last of his gift, used his gift to help set her free. And of course, she just ran. He doesn't know what happened to her. And he's been trying to find her ever since. And we find out later on towards the end of the episode that the only place he hasn't looked is the Badlands. So, since that time frame's going into effect, there's a lot of possibilities of who could be Flea. There could be a strong possibility that the widow could be a grown-up Flea, or some other woman that we've seen kicking ass and taking names in the Badlands. But it would make a bigger kind of narrative punch to have the widow be this kind of exiled abbot, like they took away her gifts and everything, but yet she still has a strong sense of justice and everything and trying to do what she's doing. So while they kind of are moving along that front, we see that in Sunny's world, he's living his kind of like perfect life. He wakes up, he doesn't have any marks on his back, he's a farmer, living with Vale and Henry. It's like doing all these kind of cool things. And of course his son comes up to him and asks him to teach him how to fight, because he wants to impress a girl, and fighters are respected and everything. And of course he's like, no, 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 I'll we'll be okay. We'll be okay as farmers and everything. I mean, I'll teach you some stuff or whatnot. Is she pretty? All that kind of stuff, being kind of like a dad and everything. So as they're doing a little spar thing, he kind of hurts me. Like to make it up to him, they like race to the pig pens. But as they get there, they see that the pigs are all slaughtered with like crosses on them in a row and everything. And it kind of gets more disturbing as going on because Henry's talking about this girl Artemis from the woods, and we see these flashes and these freaky hands popping up every so often as the dream gets more and more disturbing. And I like what they did with the kind of homestead, giving it kind of the effect of like a western, like a gunslinger who's put down his guns. That would be the same effect of Sonny not being a clipper anymore, not killing anymore. Kind of really kind of cool way that they've done that. And seeing him kind of like go through and talk to Vale and everything while everything just starts getting darker and darker. We see that his son has found this sword that Artemis has given to him because he cut himself. He's like, why do you have this and all that? It's like, don't talk to her again. But, of course, Vale sees it as him being hard and hurting Henry instead of what he's actually trying to do. So it keeps going, and Artemis keeps intruding more and more, and injures Henry with a mark on his back similar to like a clipper's mark that Sonny would have. And of course we get to the point that Vale's like gonna leave and take Henry with her because of course she tried to get Sonny to move, but he's like, listen, I can fix all this and all that and it'll be okay. Then we get into it and he hears a scream because he was talking with, seeing what was going on with the Artemis chick outside, comes in and finds Artemis, or Vale, is dead. And then, of course, he goes to the pig pen, and we see that it was Henry that killed Vale. And then he's replaced by a sword, and he goes out, and we get confronted with Artemis, who is actually one of the people that Sonny has clipped, talking about how Henry is his legacy and will eventually become him, and that you don't even remember me and my brother who you cut down in one sword swing. And then he starts getting attacked by everybody who he's clipped. And it's a really cool kind of fight scene and a real kind of showing Sonny's kind of like trying to reconcile his clipper past with who he wants to be. And that's a hard thing to do since he's killed so many people. And finding the balance of, yes, he's killed these people, but like balancing out the guilt because otherwise he'll drown in it as he's drowning and being piled on as the poison gets closer to killing him. So in order to save Sonny, they're able to get into the monastery and they're sneaking around and they are getting ready to do their kind of thing. They're in the master's chamber. They have Baji kind of looking at the scrolls and everything, and he sees Sonny's compass because MK is looking for that as well so that he can give it to Sonny. And then when they get to the Badlands, probably look for the book and try and find Azra. So Baji has MK find this satchel, this leather satchel that he's looking for. And he finds it like, well, what are all these needles for? And he's like, oh, right, good, you got that? I got the scroll, let's get out of here. Then, as they're trying to leave, the master finds them and pretty much kicks them into the dining hall with the rest of the abbots and the novices. And then we get a little bit more backstory with how the master feels with Baji. And she's like cold and calculating, like, you were going to be our greatest hope, but you turn out to be our greatest disappointment. He's like, I've disappointed a lot of people. And then she starts talking to MK like, I can't believe you ally yourself with him. All he cares about is himself. It's like, okay, we have seen that Baji is kind of an asshole with certain things. Especially since, as we saw them leaving the room, that the compass wasn't there, which we find out later on that Baji has taken that. We'll have to see how he goes about with that, because usually he's probably doing stuff for himself. But of course, he has time to turn around and actually see where this goes. So they're pretty much surrounded by everyone, and MK's trying to reason with them, saying that she's lied to us and all that, but that's not really working. So Baji's like, all right, kid, cut the novices. That's how we'll get out of this. Like, okay. So then we get this kind of cool fight scene as we're seeing how far MK has really come as a character. Because in the beginning of the show, he could barely even kind of like hold his own. And here, granted, he still has a harder kind of time, but he's able to like get out of situations more easily. And then of course, when him and Baji start cutting up the novices, that's how they kind of like divide and conquer. Get them to go black eye and go after the Abbots, which they kind of destroy with deadly efficiency. Some people breaking necks, just like others taking them out. It's like, holy crap. And they pretty much leave it in a situation where the Master's surrounded by like all these novices that have gone black eye, and it's like, alright, cool. So, that's of course where they kind of meet up with Sonny in his world. They have the instructions to use the needles. They get it into him at the last second because they need to do 5 to combat the pressure points and everything. And that's of course when Sonny's getting like poured on by all the people that he's clipped. And then he opens his eyes and he's like, holy crap. And Baji's laughing like, alright, I saved you. Woo! And then of course MK has his moment with him like, yeah, you're not a useless piece of crap. You're just a loud piece of crap. And it's like, okay. So he goes on, and of course Sonny thanks him for what he's done, sitting resting in the car. It's like, alright, we just gotta get into the Badlands and get my book and get bail and everything, and we'll be okay. And just cool seeing that bonding with MK and Sonny. And even though Sonny doesn't realize it right now, he's essentially raised MK like a son. So, granted, we always see kind of new fathers have that kind of fear that either their kid will become them or become something completely horrendous. And Sonny just has to get into the fact that, like, yeah, it's going to be hard, but look at what he's done with MK. You've already raised a kind of teenager kind of kid, and he's doing okay. I mean, granted, he slips up every now and then, but he's doing pretty well. He knows right from wrong. He knows when to kick ass and when not to kick ass. He's completely changed from the person that you met in the beginning. So that's them kind of like getting off and kind of like getting their sights straight. And then we also get in the episode, just a little bit throughout, Jade. She was kind of a focal point, and she's of course doing her stuff, doing her bath and everything. And then, out of nowhere, we find out that her estate's being attacked by the Widow and all of her forces. And like all the servants and cogs are leaving and defecting to the Widow, taking all this stuff. One of her servants actually starts beating the crap out of her, and it was like, holy shit. So her and the Clippers are trying to like get out and everything, but of course the Widow's forces come in, and Jade gets captured by the Widow, Tilda, and Quinn. And of course she's freaked out that Quinn's there, but then we get a pretty important chat between Quinn and Jade, talking about kind of like the situation and everything going on, and all their kind of like similarities, how they were both cogs, they both rose up to baronies. Him, of course, saying that like cog girls will talk about her, how she rose from the fields and everything to become a baron, and then of course how her ambition is the one that killed her, and of course her throwing it back in Quinn's face that it was his ambition, not hers, that was her downfall. And kind of like not taking his shit, being like, if you're gonna kill me, kill me. And then of course we see Quinn acting differently here. He doesn't kill her. He instead chooses to exile her instead. So of course Jade will still be probably an important part in the board, unless this is them kind of like getting her out of the way for the rest of the season. But I think that she is still an important player because even though she hasn't had much to do, she has shown herself as an interesting character, and even taking on the Widow a little bit, now not successfully in this episode, but there's more for her to be done, I think, going forward. So, of course, the Widow and Tilda are kind of like confused at this, but like, okay, we'll see where this goes. So that's kind of like the setup that we've got at the moment. One barony is already taken down by this powerful alliance. We'll have to see how the rest of the baronies react to this, since they've all kind of like closed themselves off, and now that they know that one of their own, that I'll bet she is just recently raised baron, is taken down so efficiently with this pair, they've got to probably be forming alliances or whatnot, or looking for other ways to take out this threat, which I think will be a great time for Sonny and MK and Baji to come and be like, hey, how about one of the greatest Clippers ever? That'll help. So that's kind of where I'm interested to see what's going on and where this is going. It's kind of ramping up towards the end of the season, since it said that we only have 3 episodes left, which sucks. But I just hope that there's kind of more action, because there hasn't been as much action, even though the action scenes we've seen so far have been really well done. I kind of understand that we need setup episodes to get to like final all-out war between all of the baronies and figure out the fate of the Badlands and everybody in it. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.